Hello and welcome. This is the Knight Pairs Level Up Your Chess YouTube series where we look through the fundamentals to help you win your games. And today you are learning how to checkmate with the Rook. So our aim in this position is to push the black king away from the center, where he will always be able to escape checkmate, towards the edge of the board or the corner squares here, because here we are checking the black king. He cannot of course escape, and with the king's help defending the g file, the black king is in checkmate. To do that, step one composes of two things. A, we choose a side of the board we push that king towards, and B, we do that by putting our rook like so, boxing the black king in. There's no way to escape anymore for this king. He is entirely stuck in the corner. So of course we're starting to push that king towards where we're aiming for as a result. Step two, the king can defend himself, so we bring our king up to help our rook. We also win a staring contest, also known as the opposition, which forces, because of this rook boxing the black king in and this king staring down the black king, the king is forced to the side, at which point we deploy step three, which is shuffling our rook and king in unison, pushing black's king further and further to the death zone in the corner over here. And the one thing to note, we like to shuffle like this, diagonally away from the king. We do not so much like to check, because this forces black's king one way or the other, and they can choose. They can go to d6, and then of course they've escaped where we were aiming to push them. We can still checkmate here, but we have to choose a different zone now to checkmate. For that reason, better is consistency. We go with rook to d5, diagonally away, and once the king moves away, if it's not to a check, we move the rook, and of course if it's not defended, we can't move the rook, so we have to move the king. At this point, we continue moving the king because rook f5 is a check, and we force the king to the better square of e6, where suddenly this is a bigger rectangle than it would have otherwise been if they'd gone to d6. For that reason, we simply move the king, shuffling the king and rook to the side and to the side, like this, forces black's king away, and after rook to f5, again diagonally away, we can see this king is getting smaller and smaller with the space it can get to. And after king to h6, rook to g5 completes the bind to the side, and one last moment here is moving our king up to block black's king in, like so. And at this point, we have a very clever zugzwang. The rook can move to any one of these squares, because when it does, let's choose f5 here, the king will be compelled to go back to the h7 square, and when it does, checkmate will follow. Returning briefly to this moment here, if black goes to the side, well, we know what to do. We can move our rook and continue trapping the king to the h file. But of course, what if they go backwards? Well, it's the same process. We can just simply go forwards, shuffling our rook and king forwards like so. And after the king moves, we can simply move our rook up. If they try to now win the staring contest, the opposition here, well, briefly, we do have to go backwards to then come forwards, but the same shuffling motion occurs. We do not check. We want our rook to be diagonally apart. It currently is, so we leave it. The king goes to the side, we go back to diagonally apart. And of course, if the king runs away, we've seen this before, the king continues up. And when the king gets to the back rank, it is game over. The king can go to g8, we just follow up, and because we're winning the staring contest, it is checkmate on the next turn with rook f8. Briefly, you see once again, if king to h8, after king g6, if they go to g8, we can once again move our rook backwards to any one of these squares. It's the same process of zugzwang. Let's pick f5 again, but we could also choose f1, whatever works. And at this point, the rook will go to f8 with a check and a mate on the next turn, because black is zugzwanged into the corner. Let's revise those three steps. So step one, we choose a corner of the board we're going to be pushing that king towards, and within that, we then move our rook to the opposite side of the king to then force black's king closer and closer to that corner. At this point, step two occurs when black defends himself. We bring our king up. Teamwork makes the dream work. And at this point, we're ready to roll into step three, where when the king escapes, we move the rook diagonally away from the king, shuffling with our king and rook, making sure the rook moves when it's not to a check, and when it is diagonal, and the king moves when it would be a check. And as we see here, now we can move diagonally away from the king, and the process continues, making sure when the king goes backwards, we ensure that we can then bring our king up. And the same process occurs with the black king running. We simply move up, and even if we have to go backwards, we make progress. The king can move to the side, and we maintain this diagonal positioning. And there follows an eventual checkmate by maintaining this shuffling motion, step three, with nothing stopping the eventual checkmate on f8. And now you know how to checkmate with the king and rook.